I gave my daughter-in-law a housewarming gift. Days after she drained my life savings, I took it back. They think old ladies forget things. They think 75 means slow, means soft, means a woman who cries into her tea and lets it go. My name is Judy. I am 75 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my daughter-in-law walked into my bank with a forged signature and cleaned out 41 years of my savings. She thought I wouldn't notice for months. She thought wrong. And when I found out, I didn't call a lawyer first. I did something much better. I smiled, I hugged her, and I gave her the one gift that would bring her whole scheme crashing down around her ears. If you love a good comeuppance story, hit that like button right now, subscribe if you haven't already, and type in the comments where in the world you're watching this from tonight. I read every single one, and honestly, hearing from all of you is the best part of my week. Now let me tell you exactly how a 75-year-old grandmother took her life back. I need to start at the beginning because none of this makes sense unless you understand who I was before all this happened. I raised my son Peter alone after my husband passed when Peter was only 9. I worked 2 jobs, I clipped coupons, I put a little away every single month into a savings account at First Meridian Bank, the same branch I've walked into every Friday morning for over 40 years. The tellers there watched Peter grow from a boy dragging his feet on the tile floor into a man who brought his own children in to open their first accounts. That money wasn't just money. It was every double shift, every Christmas I skipped so Peter could have one, every dollar I refused to spend on myself so that one day when I was too old to work I wouldn't be a burden to anybody. Peter married a woman named Selena 4 years ago. I liked her at first. She was polished, always put together. The kind of woman who complimented your shoes and remembered your birthday. She called me mom within the first month, which should have been my first warning, honestly, because trust isn't something you can fast forward. But I was lonely and I wanted to believe the best, so I let her in. I helped them with their wedding. I watched their first baby, my granddaughter, 3 days a week for free because Selena said daycare was too expensive. I never once complained. That's what family does, I told myself. About 6 months ago, Selena started asking questions that seemed innocent at the time. How much did I have saved? Did I have a will? Had I thought about protecting my assets as I got older? She said it with such warmth, such concern, that I actually thanked her for caring. She even offered to help me set up online banking, said it would make my life easier, said I wouldn't have to drive to the branch every week anymore. I was flattered that someone in the family finally wanted to help this old woman with her technology. What I didn't know was that while she was helping me set up my online access, she was writing down my account numbers, my security questions, and slowly, carefully, building a picture of every dollar I had. She was patient. She waited months. And 3 weeks ago, using a notarized power of attorney document with my forged signature on it, she walked into my bank and transferred $118,000 out of my savings account and into an account with only her name on it. I found out by accident, the way you find out about most betrayals. I went in on my usual Friday to deposit my little Social Security check, chatting with Diane at the counter. Wait, I need to be careful, that's not actually her name, let's just call her the teller, a sweet woman who's worked there as long as I've been a customer. She pulled up my account and went quiet. Her face changed. She turned the screen toward me, and I saw a balance of $612 where there should have been well over $100,000. I want you to understand something about that moment. It wasn't rage first. It was the floor disappearing under my feet. 41 years of sacrifice, gone in what felt like the time it takes to swipe a card. I sat down in that little chair by the counter and I could not speak. The branch manager came out, a kind young man, and he pulled the transaction records for me right there. A power of attorney filed 6 weeks earlier. My signature on it. Except I never signed anything. I have never in my life granted anyone power of attorney over my finances, and I certainly never authorized a single withdrawal, let alone the whole account being swept clean into a name I recognized instantly. I drove home that day shaking so badly I had to pull over twice. And here is where I want to tell you something important, because I know some of you watching are going through something similar right now, maybe with a family member, maybe with someone you trusted completely. The instinct is to scream, to call them up and demand answers, to let them hear exactly how furious and betrayed you are. I understand that instinct. I felt it in my bones. But screaming tips your hand. Screaming gives them time to cover their tracks, to hire a lawyer, to start building their excuses before you've even gathered your evidence. So I did not scream. I went home, I made myself a cup of tea with hands that would not stop trembling, and I started making calls. Quiet ones. I called the bank's fraud department first thing the next morning and requested every document tied to that power of attorney filing. I called an elder law attorney a friend from my church group recommended, a sharp woman who specializes in exactly this kind of family financial abuse, and I brought her copies of everything. She confirmed what I already knew in my gut. The signature was forged, badly enough that a handwriting expert would tear it apart in about 4 minutes. The notary stamp on the document belonged to a notary public who, it turned out, worked at the same real estate office where Selena had recently closed on a house. That's right. A house. My daughter-in-law didn't steal my life savings to pay off debt or cover an emergency. She stole it to put a down payment on a beautiful 4-bedroom home in a neighborhood I couldn't have afforded to even drive through most of my life. And here's the detail that still makes my hands shake with anger even now. They were planning a housewarming party. For family only. For me. I want you to sit with that for a second because I certainly had to. She stole my future, my safety net, everything I'd built my entire working life to protect myself in old age, and she used it to buy a house, and then she invited me to celebrate it with her. She actually asked me, with a straight face and a warm smile, whether I'd like to bring something special for the new house, something sentimental, something that showed how much I loved being part of the family. Oh, I loved that idea. I loved it so much I could barely sleep the night before, but not for the reason she thought. Here is where the story gets good, so if you've made it this far, thank you for sticking with me, and please do drop that like if you're rooting for this old lady already. Because what I did next, I planned with the same patience Selena used to steal from me. Two can play a very long game. My attorney explained something crucial to me. If I confronted Selena immediately and she realized the fraud had been discovered, she could try to move money, transfer property, or claim the withdrawal was a gift I'd given her voluntarily, which is a defense that people in these situations use disgustingly often. We needed documentation. We needed her to make more mistakes while believing she'd gotten away clean. And most importantly, we needed the housewarming party to happen exactly as planned, because a house purchased with stolen funds, closed on using forged documents, is not a house that can simply be kept quiet once the fraud is proven. So I played my part. I called Selena the very next day, and I told her how touched I was by the invitation, how I couldn't wait to see the new house, how I'd already started thinking about the perfect gift. I laughed with her. I asked about paint colors and the size of the backyard. Every word felt like acid in my throat, but I said them because I needed her comfortable. I needed her to believe her old mother-in-law was exactly as clueless as she'd always assumed. For the housewarming gift, I decided on something with real weight to it, both literally and in every other sense. My late husband left me a beautiful antique clock, a mantel clock that had been in his family for 3 generations, hand-carved wood, a small brass plate with our family name engraved on the base. It was, without question, the most valuable physical object I owned outside of the money that had just been stolen from me. Selena had commented on it more than once over the years, always with that particular gleam people get when they're eyeing something they'd like to own someday. I decided that clock would be my gift. But before I wrapped it, I had a locksmith friend from church help me install a small, nearly invisible tracking device inside the base of the clock, the kind people use for luggage. My attorney suggested it, honestly, not for anything dramatic, just so we'd have an unshakable, time-stamped record that the gift was delivered to that specific address on that specific date, tied directly to the house purchase with my stolen funds. Every detail mattered. We were building a case, brick by brick, and I intended for it to be airtight. The day of the housewarming arrived, and I want to tell you, walking into that house nearly broke something in me. It was gorgeous. Vaulted ceilings, a kitchen island the size of my entire living room, a view of rolling hills out the back windows. Every square foot of it paid for with money I'd sacrificed decades to save. Selena greeted me at the door in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget, hugging me tight, calling me mom in front of all her friends, thanking me for coming, for being so supportive, for always believing in her and Peter. I hugged her back. I smiled for photos. I let her show me around every single room, gushing about the walk-in closet, the soaking tub, the home office she said she'd always dreamed of. And when the moment came, in front of nearly 30 guests, family and friends and a few neighbors she was clearly eager to impress, I handed her the wrapped box with the clock inside. She opened it with a theatrical gasp. Exactly the reaction I expected from a woman who performs sincerity better than she practices it. She held the clock up for everyone to see, told the story of how she'd always admired it, thanked me again for my generosity, for trusting her with something so precious to the family. People clapped. Someone took a picture that later became evidence, actually showing the exact date and location the clock changed hands. I smiled through every second of it because I knew something none of them did. That clock was never really a gift. It was a receipt. The following Monday, my attorney and I filed a formal police report for elder financial fraud, along with a civil complaint. We had the forged power of attorney document, expert handwriting analysis proving the signature wasn't mine, banking records showing the transfer straight into an account Selena had opened just 10 days before the fraud occurred, and now time-stamped location-verified proof that funds traceable to that theft had gone directly into a house I had visited, been photographed at, and left a tracked sentimental gift inside of. The prosecutor later told me that combination of evidence was, in her words, remarkably clean for a family fraud case, because families usually muddy the waters trying to protect each other. I made sure there was no mud to muddy. Selena did not see any of this coming. She thought the housewarming had gone perfectly. She thought her mother-in-law was exactly the soft, trusting, technologically clueless old woman she'd spent months carefully cultivating. She had absolutely no idea that 2 weeks after that party, a detective would be knocking on that beautiful front door with a warrant, and that the very clock she'd proudly displayed on her new mantle would be logged into evidence as part of the paper trail connecting stolen funds to real property. I won't pretend the aftermath was easy. My son Peter was devastated, torn between the wife he loved and the mother he trusted his whole life. There were nights he didn't speak to me at all. Weeks where I genuinely feared I might lose my relationship with my grandchildren over this. That was the hardest part, harder even than losing the money. But eventually, once the evidence was laid out plainly, once Peter saw the forged signature next to my real one, once he understood that his wife had spent months manipulating his own mother while smiling in family photos, something in him broke open too. He didn't choose sides out of loyalty to blood. He chose the truth because the truth, laid out with real documents and real dates, doesn't leave much room for excuses. The house is currently tied up in litigation. Because it was purchased using stolen and fraudulently obtained funds, my attorney is pursuing a claim against the property itself, not just Selena personally, which is a legal avenue a lot of people don't realize exists. Selena is facing felony charges for financial exploitation of an elderly person, which in my state carries real prison time, not a slap on the wrist. Her notary contact is under investigation too, which apparently has opened up a whole separate can of worms about fraudulent document filings that had nothing to do with me at all. I take no particular joy in watching someone's life come apart. I want to be honest with you about that. But I take a very deep, very quiet satisfaction in knowing that justice, when you're patient enough to build it properly, actually works. As for my clock, it came back to me, of course, once it was released from evidence. It sits on my own mantle now, ticking away in my living room, exactly where it belongs. Every time I hear it chime, I think about that day I stood in a bank and watched my whole world tilt sideways, and I think about how instead of falling I got very, very still and I got to work. If there's one thing I want every person watching this to take away, especially the women my age who might be feeling small or forgotten or like nobody would take them seriously if something like this happened, it's this. Patience is not weakness. Kindness is not stupidity. You can smile at someone, hug someone, hand them a gift with your own 2 hands, and still be 3 steps ahead of them the entire time. Being underestimated is not a curse. Sometimes it's the sharpest tool you have. Thank you for watching my story all the way through. If it moved you even a little, please hit that subscribe button because I have quite a few more of these to share, and I promise you they only get better. Drop a comment and let me know what you would have done in my shoes. And take care of yourselves out there and take care of the people you love because sometimes the ones closest to you are the ones you need to watch most closely of all.